Alright guys, in today's video, we are going to check out Mosin-Nagant. Yes, that is how you say her name. I've been practicing. It's called Mosin-Nagant. But I wanted to make a video talking about this character because I feel like she has a lot of potential in the early game. But of course, once you progress and you reach the late game, she does fall off a little bit. So let's not waste any time and let's go ahead and hop right into the video. Alright, so when I first got this character, I was like, I don't think she's going to be good, long term. But who fucking cares, man? Boobs over meta. So I was lucky enough to get her SSR weapon. As you guys can see, I have this weapon right here, Samosek. I'm just gonna call it Samosek. But I got this weapon from the standard banner. I was hoping I can get a character, but they just gave me this instead. And this is her best weapon in slot. You guys can see right here. It has the thumbs up, which means that this is her best weapon in slot. And the passive that you get from the passive skill that you get from this weapon is really good. Get phase damage increase and electric damage increase, which is really dope. So let's go ahead and talk about this unit. Let's talk about the pros. Let's talk about the cons. So let's go ahead and read her kit. So for her basic attack, her is called Patrol Time. It says selects one enemy target within 9 tiles and deals physical damage equal to 80% of attack to them. So of course, her basic attack isn't really that important. Physical damage, she's like an electric damage dealing character. So, not really important at all. So we're just gonna ignore Patrol Time. We move on to Target Victory. It says stability damage 3, selects one enemy target within 9 tiles, dealing physical damage equal to 130% of attack to them. After the attack, applies conductivity for 1 turn. Now, this active skill is actually very important because this active skill is going to help her trigger her set effect for her attachment skill. So we're going to talk about that later on. But remember, target victory, it's really important because of conductivity, and she can pretty much inflict a electric debuff on the enemy, and this is really good. We move on to positive mindset. It says gain 1 stack of active engagement. In active engagement, it says attacks deal electric damage, increasing damage dealt by 30% effective once. This buff cannot be cleansed. So she pretty much gains a 30% electric damage boost. And then it says and an extra command once. Every 3 times this skill is used, gain shock. Shock, it says applies paralysis to the target for 1 turn before attacking, activates 1 time. This is considered as an electric buff. So shock is a buff and paralysis is a debuff. So this right here, when it says shock, that's a buff. This cannot be used more than once per turn. Then we move on to her ultimate declaration of victory. It says selects one enemy target within 9 tiles, dealing physical damage equal to 180% of attack to them. If a phase weakness is exploited, applies paralysis to the target after the attack for 1 turn. So she's able to inflict another debuff on the enemy only if the enemy has only if their phase weakness is exploited. If it's not exploited, she's not going to apply the paralysis effect on the enemy. And this paralysis effect will last for 1 turn. So then we move on to her passive, helping others. Now this part right here is what makes her kind of fall off long term, because like this part right here, like the stability break, this does kind of make her fall off long term. But let's go ahead and read it. It says when an allied unit attacks an enemy unit outside a turn but within range, if that enemy unit enters stability break, Mosin-Nagant performs 1 instance of action support. So for action support, it says performs a support attack, cannot be triggered by another support attack. Dealing physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and 2 points of stability damage. This effect can trigger up to 2 times per turn. After a support attack, Mosin-Nagant gains 2 points of Confectance Index and also gains Insight for 2 turns. So the problem with this passive is that in order for her to even like activate the action support, and pretty much do a lot more damage, the enemy has to enter stability break. If they don't enter stability break, then she won't be able to activate that 1 instance of action support. So this part right here is very situational, and bosses have a lot of stability, and it's going to be really hard for her to break boss's stability. So therefore, I will say her passive is going to be really hard for her to trigger the action support because it relies on stability break. So that's pretty much her entire kit in a nutshell. You pretty much have, debuffs on the enemies, you have buffs for herself, you have conductivity, and like to me, this unit operates more on like if she's able to inflict a debuff on the enemy, that can allow her to do a lot more damage, and the reason why is because of her attachment. So when we come over here to her attachment skills, so this is the set I'm currently running on her. We are running Phase Strike, and it says right here, deals 15% increased damage to targets with phase element debuffs. So she pretty much has debuffs in her kit, which allows her to deal 50% increased damage. Now, we'll say Phase Strike is pretty universal. Every unit can activate this set effect, because as long as you're attacking an enemy who has a phase element debuff, you'll be able to deal increased damage. So this set really good on her. I am trying to get more crit rate on her. As you guys can see, I only have like 2.3%, which kind of sucks. But hey, we're in the early phase. Who fucking cares? Once I reach the late game, that's when we can focus on getting more stats on these units. Now, when I read her fortification, once again, in order for her to get that action support, it depends on if the enemy is in stability break. If they're not, then she's not going to get that action support. But for her S6, it says right here, when an electric debuff is applied to an enemy target outside of turn, gains wise support. The maximum number of support attack increases by 1. So she's able to gain a support stack without worrying about stability break. As long as it says when an electric debuff is applied to an enemy target outside of turn, as long as the enemy has an electric debuff outside of turn, she'll be able to gain the wise support, and it says performs a support attack. So I will say her S6, it fixes her, but who's gonna invest a lot in a standard character when you can invest in a limited character who's probably going to be very good with 1 dupe, right? Not even 1 dupe, with 0 dupes. It would be better for you to focus on limited characters who are really good with 0 dupes versus focusing on a standard SSR character that needs 6 copies to work long term. So I will say for Mosin-Nagant, if you do end up getting a lot of copies on this unit on the standard banner, she's going to be very good once you get her S6. But once again, if you are a free-to-play player, I will say this character is not going to benefit you that much long term. At the early phase, she's very good. I've been enjoying this character, but in the long run, not really. But once again, boobs over meta. Now, when it comes to her neural helix, so I am still trying to get orderly maintenance, and orderly maintenance is actually pretty good because she's able to apply 2 debuffs to the enemy before launching an attack, which is really good. Some more debuffs. And then positive mindset pretty much allows her to ignore 50% of cover damage reduction, which is really nice. So once I reach level 30, guys can see right here, it says dog reaches level 30, I'll be able to unlock positive mindset and orderly maintenance. As of right now, I currently have security patrol squad, and this is actually pretty good because it says if the target has paralysis, increases stability damage they take by 2 points. So a lot more damage. And then if I come back over here to this right here, you guys can see this is currently, I'll say, like, honestly, I just put random stuff on her. The only piece that I'm confident in is, of course, this right here, the fixed key security patrol squad. But I have the common key pixie cape, increases attack and defense. This also increases crit rate and attack boost. And then this one just increases attack and heal health. So I'm really just putting stuff on her as up to right now, but once I reach level 30, I'll be able to properly build this character. So we're going to go ahead and enter a boss fight, and you guys are going to see that this unit, she's not really that good against bosses due to the, the stability break thing. Like, in order for her to gain that action support, the enemy has to be in stability break, and that's going to be very hard for her to do that because bosses do have a lot of stability. So it's going to be really hard for her to gain that action support for bosses. So this is a team that I'm going to run with my Nagant. We have Tsuyomi alongside with Groza and Sharky. Sharky's pretty much like, my sub DPS unit. Groza's also like I'll say Groza's also my support unit. Like, she's mostly there to apply that, defense buff for more survivability. And plus I already have her attachment set, which is really good. So let's go ahead and enter this fight. Now, like I said, Nagant is not really a boss unit, but I just want to show you guys her performance against bosses. And sure, she can deal, good single target damage, but compared to other characters who can actually deal a lot, like who are actually more effective against bosses, I will say Nagant is definitely not up there when it comes to, the boss meta. So if we take a look at what we can do here. So we're just gonna go ahead and put this in auto mode, right? Put this in auto mode. What you guys can see here for the passive, it says if that enemy enters stability break, Mosin-Nagant performs one instance of action support. So I mean, the decent thing is it says when an ally unit attacks an enemy unit outside of turn but within range, if that unit enters stability break. So I'm guessing if your other allies, if they're able to break that, stability for the boss, then that can be good. But, we'll see. We're going to go ahead and enter auto mode. And Vepli, really, really nice against bosses. But, once again, when it comes to Nagant, I feel like she's mostly useful for like progression through the story, progression through hard mode, clearing other content. But when it comes to bosses, this is just not her specialty. Because the action support really, locks her from her full potential. And I feel like the stability break really holds her back. All right, so we're not looking too bad so far. I mean, this boss is pretty easy to deal with. So you guys can see the boss literally gains like stability stacks whenever he destroys that supply box. So, it's going to be very hard to, get that action support. But the fact that we were able to get rid of that stability from the boss, now she's able to gain that action support. Now, once you get more copies on this character, I'm pretty sure for her S3 or S2, she's able to have like increased crit rating, increased crit damage, something like that. So, I feel like Nagant, she has potential and she's very powerful in the early phase of the game. But I do understand that later on, that action support for her passive is definitely going to hold her back. But you guys can see for her ultimate right here, I mean, she targeted one of the robots right here, which is fine. But if we can actually get a good score for this boss fight, that would be very nice. And another thing too, the fact that she's a sniping unit, she's gonna have long range attacks, which is gonna be very useful. So I think that's, one good thing about her is the fact that she's able to, have a lot of range for her attacks. But once again, that passive really just holds her back. Like it holds her back to the point where you have to run her with another DPS character. That's why I'm running her with Sharky instead, so that she won't be my only DPS unit. So if you're thinking about building a team revolving around Nagant, you're probably gonna have to use Q. You're probably gonna have to use another DPS character with Nagant so that she won't be your only DPS unit, because there are a lot of things that you have to watch out for when it comes to Nagant, and she has a lot of she has some restrictions in her kit. But still though, I still enjoy this character. Very, very fun. The fact that I was able to get her SSR weapon, hey, I was like, I might as well build this character. I got her SSR weapon. Let me go ahead and build her. Seems pretty cool. Holy shit. Okay, Sharky died there. Okay, she keeps focusing on these bots, but hey, that's auto mode for you, man. When it comes to these gacha games, auto mode, oh my gosh. That's all they focus on. And Groza. Let's talk about Groza. I feel like Groza, she has a lot of potential for an SR character. I feel like she has a lot of potential. Like if you want to have a team that focuses on survivability, I feel like Rosa is that unit you want to go for. Of course, Tsuyomi is like the best character when it comes to survivability, but Rosa is also very, very good because of the defense up. Like she's really, really good when it comes to that. So Groza has a lot of potential, and I'm also close to maxing her out. So I will say she's impressive for an SR character. She's very impressive. The fact that you get her for free is also really, really good. But her ultimate, I will say her ultimate isn't that strong, especially against bosses. It's only really good against, enemy mobs. But bro, this guy is legit spamming that shit. So you can see like her damage against bosses, it's really not that strong because once again, you have to rely on that stability. And I'm pretty sure the boss, he does have that stability break, right? I think he does have the stability break because the shield is down. So she probably has that action support. And now her stability is broken now. Okay, so Groza is now dead. So all we have left is Nagant. We're so close, man. And you guys can see that whenever she activates her attachment, is going to pop up right here on the right screen. Yep, it's going to pop up right here. So she's constantly activating her attachment skill and also her passive skill as well. And then for my Xiaomi, I put on Ultimate Pursuit on her, which is really good. Ultimate Pursuit is really cracked on Xiaomi. I feel like when it comes to universal characters, like every character in the game, Phase Strike is pretty much good on everybody. So let's go ahead and check out the damage real quick. So you guys can see right here, 7,276. You know, that's not bad. But once again, if you're focusing on another character like Vepley, for example, who's really good against bosses, Vepley's going to perform way better. So yeah, I do feel like the passive for Nagant, you do have to get that S6, so you don't have to worry about the stability break. All right, so for this fight right here, we're currently in like a hard mode in the story mode for the event. So this is hard mode, and let's see what happens. Let's put this on auto mode. Now I feel like for this game in the early phase, you know, auto mode is really the way to go. Manually going through, you know, progressing through the story, progressing through the game in manual mode, it takes a long time. So I would rather just do it in auto mode instead. I was able to clear a lot of things with auto mode, so we'll take it. But you guys can see that she doesn't really trigger action support that much. No, she doesn't trigger it that much. So right now in the Pride 1 tier list, they put her in A tier for the early game, but for late game they put her in C tier. Now the thing is, they didn't really talk about, you know, which rank she would be in if she had if she had S6, if you had 6 copies on her. Now I do feel like if you were to get this character in S6, I would honestly put her probably around like the B tier range or the A tier range, probably in that area. But of course, you know, the more characters we get in the game, the more these units are gonna get power crap. But hey, who gives a fuck about the meta, bro? Who cares about the meta, man? All right, so we were able to clear that. Let's go ahead and check out the damage real quick. I'm pretty sure she dealt the most damage here. Yes, she did. 2,255 damage, not bad. Let's confirm it. So yeah, overall, I feel like for Mosin-Nagant, if you have this character, feel free to use her. Like, I feel like she's a pretty solid unit. You know, she's not that bad. And once again, we're at the early phase of the game, so I'll say every character can work since we're in the early phase. But of course, once we reach the late game, that's when things start to get shaky. You're gonna have to focus on building, you know, the right characters in order for you to, you know, have the best performance against bosses, you know, PvE content. That's the case in every gacha game. So overall, I feel like this unit, she is a snipe queen. Very, very good. The fact that she operates with debuffs, like she operates with debuffs and she operates with buffs as well, pretty interesting. She's like a unique character, but of course, because of that, you know, action support and it's locked behind the stability break, that can hold her back. So I feel like once you get S6 on this character, I feel like she's gonna be a monster, right? I feel like she's gonna be a really nice unit once you get her at S6 because of the action support, which is gonna allow her to do a lot of damage. And if I come back to her fortification, the crit rate and crit damage increase, I think it's right over here. Yes, you guys can see right here, it says increase the critical rate and critical damage of ultimate skills by 5%, maximum 4 stacks. They're pretty much getting like 20% ultimate damage, ultimate crit rate and crit damage increase, which is really good. So I will say her S3, if you get her at S3, I feel like you're going to see a huge damage boost. And you're going to see a huge damage boost on this character. But S6 is where it's truly at. That's where it's really at, man. You don't have to worry about the stability stacks anymore, because as long as you apply an electric debuff on the enemy outside of a turn, you'll be able to gain that Y support, which allows you to perform a support attack. So that's pretty much my, you know, review on this character. Really good. Once I got her SSR weapon, I was able to see her potential because it was able to, like, this weapon can give her phase damage increase and electric damage increase. And she's actually pretty good, man. Really, really good. But I feel like once I progress through the game, I'll see her flaws. I'll see, the issues with this character. But overall, in my opinion, this unit is still the snipe queen. Very, very good long range damage dealing unit. So tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace.